The woman who owned a billion-dollar company had spent years believing she could control everything in her life. Yet somewhere 35,000 feet above the ground, surrounded by strangers and endless clouds, she accidentally rested her head on the shoulder of a tired single father. What happened only minutes later was something neither of them could have imagined, and by the time the plane began its descent, both of their lives had changed forever. If you believe kindness, second chances, and genuine human connections can change lives, please like this video, leave a comment, share it with your friends, and subscribe to Love and Destiny. Your support helps us bring more emotional stories that inspire hope. Nathan Brooks was 36 years old, a widowed single father raising his 7-year-old daughter, Grace. Every day felt like a race against time. He balanced 2 jobs, endless bills, school activities, and the quiet loneliness that filled their small apartment after his wife passed away 3 years earlier. Despite every hardship, Nathan never allowed life to steal his kindness. His greatest dream wasn't wealth or success. It was simply giving Grace a childhood filled with love. This flight to Seattle was the first time Nathan and Grace had traveled together since losing her mother. Grace had won a national children's art competition, and the organizers had invited her to receive her award. Nathan had spent months saving every extra dollar to make the journey possible. He skipped meals, worked overtime, and sacrificed countless comforts because seeing his daughter smile was worth every struggle. Several rows away sat Victoria Harper, the 40-year-old CEO of one of the country's fastest-growing technology companies. Her elegant navy business suit, perfectly styled dark hair, and calm appearance made her seem confident, but inside she was exhausted. Weeks of negotiations, board meetings, and sleepless nights had left her physically and emotionally drained. Success had given her everything except peace. She had built an empire while quietly losing friendships, family connections, and any chance at a normal life. As the aircraft climbed higher, Grace happily sketched pictures in her notebook while Nathan smiled proudly beside her. Victoria reviewed financial reports on her tablet, fighting to keep her eyes open. Eventually exhaustion defeated determination. Her tablet slipped onto her lap as sleep gently carried her away. Without realizing it, the turbulence caused Victoria to slowly lean toward Nathan. A few moments later, her head rested gently on his shoulder. Nathan looked surprised but noticed how completely exhausted she appeared. Rather than waking her or moving away, he simply remained still, careful not to disturb someone who clearly needed rest. Passengers nearby smiled quietly at the unexpected sight. Grace looked at her father with innocent curiosity before returning to her drawing. Nathan wasn't thinking about who Victoria was or how expensive her clothes looked. He simply saw another human being carrying invisible burdens. Nearly 40 minutes passed peacefully until sudden severe turbulence shook the aircraft violently. Overhead bins rattled, oxygen masks nearly released, and frightened gasps echoed through the cabin. Victoria instantly woke in confusion, realizing where her head had been resting. Embarrassment flooded her face, but before she could react, another violent jolt threw several passengers sideways. At that exact moment, a frightened elderly passenger collapsed in the aisle, struggling to breathe. Panic spread quickly as flight attendants rushed toward him. Nathan immediately unbuckled his seatbelt and calmly stepped forward. Years earlier, while caring for his seriously ill wife, he had completed emergency medical training. Without hesitation, he assessed the man's condition, helped stabilize his breathing, and worked alongside the cabin crew until the passenger slowly regained consciousness. Victoria watched the entire scene in complete silence. Only minutes earlier she had assumed Nathan was simply another tired traveler. Now she witnessed remarkable courage, compassion, and calm leadership under pressure. He never asked for recognition or applause. He simply returned to his seat, checked on Grace, and quietly continued comforting his daughter as though nothing extraordinary had happened. For the rest of the flight, Victoria couldn't stop thinking about the man beside her. She had spent years surrounded by executives competing for promotions and investors chasing profits. Genuine kindness without expectation had become something she rarely encountered. As the plane landed safely, the elderly passenger personally thanked Nathan before leaving with medical personnel waiting at the gate. Many passengers applauded softly, but Nathan seemed almost uncomfortable with the attention. Helping someone, in his mind, was simply the right thing to do. While collecting their luggage, Grace accidentally dropped her award invitation. Victoria picked it up and read the words describing the National Children's Art Competition. She learned that Nathan wasn't traveling for business or vacation. Every sacrifice had been made so his little girl could experience one unforgettable moment. Something inside Victoria shifted. Later that evening, curiosity led her to quietly research Nathan online. Instead of finding impressive business achievements, she discovered a small community page filled with stories about his volunteer work, neighborhood food drives, and the countless families he had helped despite struggling financially himself. The man who had unknowingly become her pillow during the flight possessed a richness that no financial statement could measure. The following week, Victoria visited the community center where Nathan volunteered every Saturday. She didn't arrive as a billionaire CEO surrounded by assistants. She came alone, wearing simple clothes, hoping to understand the man whose quiet compassion had stayed in her heart. She watched Nathan fixing broken toys for children, serving meals to struggling families, and encouraging every person with genuine warmth. Grace happily painted colorful murals while laughing with other children. Their lives were modest, yet filled with something Victoria had almost forgotten existed: joy. For the first time in many years, Victoria questioned everything she believed success meant. She realized she had built extraordinary buildings, impressive companies, and endless wealth, but Nathan had built something far greater: trust, love, and a community that genuinely cared about one another. Months later, Victoria announced a new foundation through her company dedicated to supporting single parents, children's education, and emergency family assistance. She privately asked Nathan to become one of its advisors, knowing no executive understood real compassion better than he did. Nathan accepted, not because of the salary, but because it meant helping thousands of families facing struggles similar to his own. Grace's artwork eventually hung inside the foundation's headquarters, reminding every visitor that hope often begins with ordinary people performing extraordinary acts of kindness. The passengers on that flight remembered the turbulence, but Victoria remembered something much deeper. She remembered falling asleep on the shoulder of a stranger and waking up beside a man who quietly reminded her what true success actually looked like. If this story touched your heart, please tell us in the comments. What is one act of kindness that changed your life forever? We'd love to read your story. As Nathan and Grace continued building a beautiful life filled with hope, and Victoria finally discovered that compassion was the greatest investment anyone could make, all three realized that destiny sometimes arrives in the most unexpected seat on the most ordinary flight. One accidental moment had become the beginning of countless new opportunities, proving that the strongest connections are often born not from wealth or status, but from simple human kindness. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Love and Destiny so together we can continue spreading stories that remind the world that love, kindness, and second chances still exist.